So happy Tuesday, everybody. Happy Tuesday, happy February. Welcome to the Coaching the Flourish podcast. I am your host, John Andrew Williams. Today I'm here with Raj Anderson. Hi, Raj. How are you?
Hi, John. I'm excited. It's Happy Tuesday, isn't it? All these twos.
It's the Tuesday. It's two twos. How many twos? 22 twos?
Yeah, lots of twos. 22nd of the 2nd of the 22nd, 22 year. And I actually managed to take a picture on my phone when it was 222. So
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Apparently-
Did you make a wish? Did you make a wish?
I did. I love
Good.
these numbers.
Don't have to share it. Don't have to share it. But
I'll share it some other time, but I'm great. I'm really excited today as well, John. We've got some great questions. And I also just came off a Women in Leadership cohort that I just launched for 2022. So I'm really pumped. We're asking lots of coaching questions on there. We've put over 50 women through a program, and we just put 16 in the cohort.
Oh, I was hoping for 22. And you have 22 women meeting 20. Like, here we go.
I know, it should have been 22. Are you ready for me to share the question? First question then. Okay, so we've got 3 questions, but I'll share the first one with you. So question from somebody in our community is, past events consume my thoughts and keep me from moving forward. Any tips for living in the present?
I was thinking about this over the weekend. There was a leadership leader who was bigger game, who worked with Laura Whitworth, Rick Tamlin, and Rick came and did a weekend with us, and he said something that stuck with me, where he said, in the past I had something, these things in the past, which he characterized very negatively. But he said, now I have rewritten that story. And he said those things no longer have the same impact, or the same use the word hook in the present moment. And he said, my story has changed my personal history, and it really stuck with me. Like the idea of change, like just those things are now changed. I have purposely changed them in the story that I've told, and I think this mimics what happens in a coaching session, where sometimes when you're in a coaching session, your coach will ask a question, and the question will go counter to what normal thought pattern you might have. Like, for instance, let's say a coach might say, well, what's the usefulness of that pain? Or that might go more, curiosity to a negative perspective. It could also go into this idea of, okay, so let's imagine for 3 minutes that you have lived a life where not a single negative thing has happened to you. And you create this like alternate reality perspective, like this perspective that there's no way that it would ever exist in real life. But with the help of a coach, you're going to this space. It's almost like you're going to some sort of inner mental emotional gym, where you're going to pick up this weight and you're just going to try it out. You would never do curls in real life. Like, no one brushes their teeth like that, or like fits food in their mouth like as quickly as possible. But if you want to build your arms up, you got to do your things, right? So it's a similar kind of thing where you it's almost like in a coaching session, you can take a mental emotional exercise like that, and curiosity. And this is what makes, I think, being a coach such a deep, fulfilling profession, because you know with confidence how to lead someone to that space to do that inner work themselves, while still getting out of the way, while not trying to it's like help through empowerment, not help through expertise, if that makes sense. And so that's what I'd recommend. I would recommend exploring it in a coaching session from the perspective of not trying to solve it, like not trying to get away from it, not trying to change it so much, but with the idea that perspectives can change a lot, and it's here for a reason. Let's generate as much learning from this as possible before like moving on or taking the next steps. That's what I would say to that.
So I'm thinking about this and which tools helped me when I was training to be a coach as well. And there's a few tools that I was thinking coming up for me. I know in the 2.0 we even look at kind of habits and daily routines. But I remember in the executive program as well, we looked at rituals. And I was thinking about how rituals help me to stay grounded and stay in the present moment. Are there any particular tools that you would use to help somebody kind of stay more present?
Yeah, I have lots of I don't know, mental emotional space clearing exercises where that range from a pull-up bar just right over there to staring out the window to journaling. I mean, there are lots of different tools. I feel like anything that gets people moving physically, and then also people need to find whatever tool they have. How about for you, Raj? I know you have a lot, and we've even talked about these.
Yeah, I mean, for me, practicing just mindfulness changed my life. And I was even last night, I was being pulled in all kinds of directions, and I was doing my journaling, and I decided I was going to listen to Thich Nhat Hanh, peace activist and Buddhist monk who passed away recently. But I mean, he talks so beautifully about being present and being right here in this moment. And I've done a lot of work on myself over the last few years of just catching myself. He was talking about doing nothing and just sitting with that. And I think, how busy we all are, and, we're all trying to work on achieving something and trying to move to the next place. And I tend to catch myself. I go and sit outside without my phone and without gadgets and just stare. We've got bamboo plants at the back. They're beautiful. And, I'll put a waterfall on and just attempt to not control thoughts. I meditate every morning. I have my rituals and practices. And do they always work? No, because it's ongoing practice, isn't it? But I think it's, how do we get into the habit of just like sitting here now, enjoying this time with you, rather than an inner critic showing up or something showing up about how am I going to answer the next question? And for me, sometimes I put my feet on the ground, just root my feet in the ground and be grounded in the here and now. And something interesting I heard, I'll just share this before we move on. Sometimes I'm not on social media a lot, but sometimes I like to scroll through TikTok because there's some great healers and coaches and things on there. And there was a guy on there and he was saying, just breathe. And he said, if you're feeling sad, it might be that you're in the past. If you're feeling anxious, you might be spending too much time in the future. And if you're feeling peace, it means that you're here right now.
That's
curious
lovely.
about that.
That's lovely.
What do you think?
Something that's stuck with me is this idea of the present also being the reward from flow study, where part of the idea of being in flow is where you're engaged in something, and the engagement is the reward of the activity itself. And I've thought a lot about that. Like this conversation is the reward. Like, it's not like there's something else out there that we have to find, but it's here right now. That helps. Also thinking about always moving to gratitude, even when it feels hard, and then also letting whatever negative emotion is just being with, rather than trying to change. I feel like there are a lot of tools we have as coaches. Then we have the support of others too, in coaching sessions. I'm curious. I want to know what. I have more, but I feel like from there, to answer this question, I would just have coaching questions. Like they're like, lots of coaching questions. And I feel like a lot of coaches go, okay, a question that we often get is, does coaching, and as a coach, can we ask questions about the past? Or how does a coach ask questions about the past? And this is where I feel like getting really geeky in grammar has helped my thinking on this. So if I could go geeky for 3 minutes and just go for it, that's what's coming up for me. Okay. So so a verb has a couple characteristics. The one that most people know about is tense, like past, present, future. Verbs also have an aspect, which is completed, simple, or progressive. So completed means it is done. Like there's no, and this is where English uses auxiliary verbs like have and had. I had done this thing in the distant past. So it's completed past, like had walked, There is also an idea of completed present. So this is, I have walked. And it means like I have walked, like I have just now from the past stopped walking, but I'm in the present moment, but I've completed the action of walking. So it feels like it should be past, but the tense is actually present. And this is what, when you're coaching, it's like that. Like, what about the walking in the past? Like, imagine it's done here, like this. And a lot of times, this, to me, it feels best if it's around story. Like, so what's the story that you were telling in the past? What if that story were complete? What's the completed story? And that's the impact it needs to have on the present tense. So it's useful to start to compartmentalize in your mind, okay, so how am I using this completed past event in the completed present? And then you can think, okay, so now I'm moving it more into progressive. Like, so I am walking. What does walking look like now with this idea of this completed past? So that's how coaches, like that's the mental theoretical framework. How it shows up in a coaching question, or how this shows up in coaching practice, is something around, okay, so like what's the learning that you can derive from the past that makes an impact on the present? Or what aspects of this from the past you want to take into your present? And then if you, let's say you take this into your present, what's that future direction? How do you move that into the basically future tense? And then this, to go even further, we play with this a lot in coaching, this temporal perspective changing, where you're thinking of, okay, so what's the future completed? I will have walked, right? So that's future self. That's, okay, so 10 years from now, what does your future self want to say about your present self dealing with your past self? Like, you can go in all these different places with curiosity, and the insights you'll gain from this are more valuable than the actual solving of it in the first place, usually. That's not saying like, yeah, we should have all of these traumas and hurts and pasts and get stuckness. I get there too. But there's value in that too. And you can get there in coaching sessions. But that kind of tense work and aspect work has helped me conceptualize, okay, this is how we can use coaching to really get curious about the past's impact on the present moment. Oh, I'm done. That's it.
That's beautiful, John. I had to write it down. I have, I am, I will have. I just think that's, think about the kind of questions I'm going to ask. Thanks, John.
It matters because it helps you address things that need to be addressed without trying to get stuck in past stuff, because it does feel like you can get stuck there, for sure, as a coach even, and it gets frustrating for you as a coach, and then the client feels like, well, what are we doing? And yeah, it helps.
Thank you. Okay, so next question then, and I think you can help us answer this because you've got this new fancy camera. I can see you zooming in and out. Looks fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm still learning it. I was playing with it all day yesterday for 2 hours. Like this is my life.
Show.
This is my life. Yeah.
Following John.
I have a camera person who is excellent. Going over here now. It allows me to move in my space without feeling like I have.
It's excellent. So
it's really fun.
It leads us nicely to this question that we had. So, what would you say are the do's and don'ts of setting up a home office for coaching?
Wow. Okay. So, my goodness. A lot. A lot. I think I've had a lot of different iterations of it. I think the most useful thing, if I had to boil it down, is this: is to try to create little rituals or separation between home office work time and home away from work time. And for many years, I developed a really strong rule around when I'm home, I don't talk about stressors from office stuff happening. And I purposely kept them separate. That's hard to do. And sometimes I just needed to download stuff to a Moise sometimes, and then we'd work through whatever ideas I needed to work through. And what I think what we developed is because she's also a trained coach, sort of a code for, all right, I need a business chat. I need to process this right now, and that was really useful. And then when she would at times get more involved in different projects, we had to rework that design, because then she would bring stuff up, and then I was thinking, well, this is home stuff, home time, business time. And then I'd bring stuff up. It'd be home time, business time. And then it was like, okay, so what are we really doing here? And I think there's this idea that we're trying to create home life balance, but really we're after home life integration. Like, we're after, how do you integrate those ideas? Because sometimes I have really great ideas that happen during home time. And it was like, well, is home time, am I not allowed to have these great ideas for business time? Or vice versa. Like, you have great ideas for home time during business time. So I think that there's a mindfulness around creating designed alliances and close relationships, and then we would have certain words too that meant, okay, I'm finished with the business chat now, we need to go to home chat. But it was all designed, and it was all coded, and it was lovely, and it just really helped with our communication. And we with that design of that balance, and to have it so finely tuned was a huge asset, and something that we needed to have happen in order to make this successful. Home office wise, I think from that there's a design around that too, like when I'm on meetings, when I'm available, not available, and then the other thing would be around clothing. Having I would have certain office clothing, and no sweatpants. Don't do that. Even Zoom calls, I know it's tempting, don't do it. Slippers are cool, but not sweatpants. Don't put a window behind you. Drink water. Have a tea station right next to your computer. Have plants. Make sure they're water, or else they'll scream at you for water. You don't do that. I feel like there's a lot of make it nice. Make it nice, and dress like you would go show up. I usually wear a jacket if it's business time. Usually don't if it's not. So that's one of my markers. And I consciously make the transition. I can get into that. I can go more into it. But I was thinking about making a video of it, actually. I don't know. Anyway, Raj, those are my thoughts. I'd love to hear yours as well. I mean, we talked about this a couple of times. I feel like I learned something new every time you describe your systems.
Likewise, John. Yeah, I agree with all of those things. I really like the way you started with this importance of integration, yet you've got to have what works for you at home. And my husband and I as well, sometimes we might it's a bit like using the clearing tool. My husband has a lot of stress with his work, and sometimes he just wants to let off steam, or might be coming across that he's angry or whatever. And we just have a set time. It's like, we're going to talk about this for this long, or let's let it out. And then there's certain times, weekends, we're not going to be talking about things. So we've got those systems and boundaries. I think it's really important. I also think, as you're saying, it's really important to create that space. Now, you may or may not have the luxury in your home to have a whole separate room for your office. If you do, that's a great blessing. But I think even if you haven't, how can you even buy something in a space that's going to create that divide? You can get those things where you can put it there and you can pull it back, whatever it is that it's going to look like. For me, I know I actually have a sign on my door so my husband would know. It's like, do not disturb. I took it from a hotel. But it's like, do not disturb. He knows that I'm on a call like this, for example, or I'm recording something, or I'm training, or whatever that is. And likewise for him, so we're creating that privacy. And then I think it's those other things around, it's just sacred space, isn't it? I have things around me that, this is a great visual because I'm a professional, I'm on exec calls, it looks nice behind me, but it's all the things that I love in front of me as well. I've got motivational quotes and my plants and inspiring things, and I'm spending a lot of time in here, and I want it to feel good. So what's going to feel good? I don't want it to be all cluttered. For me, if my space is cluttered, my mind is cluttered. Everyone's different, but that's just how it works for me. And your comment on don't wear jogging pants or whatever, I have worn my Mickey Mouse pajama bottoms before now on a call. And luckily, it wasn't that day that I was asked to stand up on a call. We were asked to stand up on a call and spin around. And I thought, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that again. I'm not going to wear those. But I think the message in here is, yeah, you want to be comfortable, but also wouldn't recommend being too relaxed. I have seen recordings and coaching before now of people in bed even. And I think you've got to think about, how does that make you feel? I know I feel a bit sloppy. I'm not on my A game if I'm lounging around too much. So you've got to think about what works. And at the end of the day, we are offering a service to people, aren't we?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, I have lots of rules around. I don't get super dressed, but I do wear jeans. Like, that's like minimum.
Yeah, don't get caught out on a call when you have to stand up.
Gosh, and it does matter. I did this thing once where for a 2-week period, I've done lots of experiments in this training. For a 2-week period, I wore t-shirts on all the calls I was leading. This is back in 2015, 2016. And at the end of those 2 weeks, I was utterly exhausted. And it was really striking how much more energy I had to use in order to hold the respect and hold the space in the class than when I wore a jacket. And it was palpable. I could completely tell the difference. And then when I switched back to wearing a jacket, it just was easier. And I think that's similar too when people show up and they have a professional look to it. There is an unconscious bias that's happening. It's silly to think that it's not, and it's helpful to understand and to use it, to your advantage. It doesn't mean you have to wear a tie. That might be too much, but at least a collared shirt and a jacket.
Yeah, it represents you, doesn't it? It's part of your brand. For me, this is part of my brand and how I'm representing myself. Not to mention, I work completely virtually, and I've got all these wonderful clothes that I would never wear otherwise. That would be a shame.
It's gotta be webinar ready.
Webinar ready.
It doesn't matter what you smell like. It's cool. It's useful.
Yeah, you can't smell us through camera yet. Maybe in the future.
Designing that one.
So, John, we've got 3 minutes, and we do have another question. Do we want to leave it for next time, or do you want me to?
Let's do it. Short question. A short answer.
Okay, so for a new coach trying to build my coaching business on social media, what are some things I should or shouldn't do?
Yeah, I'm a terrible person to answer that question. I'm like the last person.
Well, we're a right pair because I was going to say the same thing. Yet we do have some resources, though, don't we? There was a wonderful webinar or podcast was with Charlotte. I think it's on Instagram where she talks about scaling up your business on social media, and there's some other articles too.
Well, I'm planning to get into it. I mean, I feel like we have, people now. Coaching EDU is big enough now that we can have people who are, we're talking about what kind of social we put out there as an organization, as a school. I've seen people do it. I'm just not on it. I understand its value, its importance. I don't know. I want to be in that space, and I hope to be. There are some things. It's just too challenging right now for me to spend time in that space, and I know that's not a great excuse for it. I need to show up in certain ways. So I don't know, Raj. I think it feels like a very level one type. It brings me to a very me centered space. I don't know. I did not build it on social. I think the best thing about social, as I understand it, is I think people check it out to get an idea of who you are as your brand. I think that for me, when I was building this, my client practice, this was mostly between 2005 and 2012, when there was social. I mean, there was social around in those years. It was very much of how can I provide value and get to the one-on-ones with people. And I think that there is a lot of value in connecting with influencers, connecting with people who are in this space and seeing where the edges of the knowledge are. And that's our plan. That has been what I've been doing the last couple of weeks. It's fascinating. I've learned a lot too. That's my answer.
And I would just add to that, I've talked about this before. You probably listen back to a different podcast if you're listening in on this. I've been there, done that. I spent a lot of time on it. So my tips would be, really think about what you're using it for. Don't let it over-consume you. It can be a lot of pressure. You can fall into fear and comparison. And sometimes you got to think outside the box. If you're a new coach and you're launching your business and you think the only way to get word out there is social media, it isn't. Sometimes I'm old school, and I've talked about leveraging connections, and sometimes you got to pick up the phone or think about networking or an event you can go to. And I've worked with a lot of coaches who are transitioning out of employment, or they left work, and you've got connections. There's people that you can speak to and pick up the phone to. Especially when thinking about wellness and executive coaching. I do a lot of work with organizations. Organizations are looking for coaches all the time for offers, especially now more than ever. So I encourage people to think outside the box and also ask yourself the question, what are you using social media for? And this sounds a bit dark, and since it can be a bit soul destroying if you are just using it desperately just to be finding clients, I think there is value in it for presence. I know some coaches who use it wonderfully because they do have a different kind of niche, or they're the only coach around. I work with coaches who are like in Japan, for example, and people that have moved to Japan, and they're supporting them. So it's not that it can't work, but I encourage people to think about other avenues and not just put your heart and soul into that one route. I learned the hard way, and I'm glad for it because I am where I am now. But yeah, don't become so obsessed with that scroll.
Thanks, Raj. Yay, we did it. Look at us. Only 1 minute passed.
We did. We're on time. Thank you, John.
Yeah, thank you, Raj. This is lovely. Happy 2222. And I'll be, our 2 o'clock is coming up here, so in about 2 hours and 20 minutes. So it'll be fun. Trying to think, will I be on a call or something?
And then I'm trying to look at that, the digital clock, is it the army clock as well? So I'm going to try and see if I can do it at 22 tonight, 22 seconds.
Oh,
I don't know.
that's right.
I'm going to try. Because then once in our lifetime, we can capture that.
Oh, wow. Okay, there we go. Well,
All right, thanks, John.
thanks for watching, everyone. Another Coach to the Flourish podcast.
Bye.